Hi, and welcome to the SEO Podcast, Unknown Secrets of Internet Marketing. My name is Chris Burres, one of the owners of EWR Digital.
My name is Matt Bertram, marketing consultant.
Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of our podcast. This is podcast number 567. It's the fifth one in 2023. Is 2023 going pretty fast for you? I feel like
it's
insanely fast.
I think every year it speeds up.
Yeah. And, I have a theory about that. Maybe we should save that for the green room.
We can.
For the formerly known as the green room. We're excited. We've got an article today. The article is how to conduct a content audit step-by-step. PTIF to Ashley Segura. She is a VIP contributor over at Search Engine Journal. This is going to be a good article. We do have a review that I wanted to share with you.
Really, Chris? Let's hear it.
Yeah. So this review, it's from Peter Germanzi, if I'm pronouncing that right. I think that's right. It says, and he actually left it for EWR Digital over on Clutch. And it's EWR has helped us grow our search engine presence and provide a consistent flow of well-crafted content for our audiences. He gave us 5 stars. Oh, it feels good to do that. It's Friday. Right. Normally we do our podcast on Thursdays.
Yeah. It's the day after rodeo kickoff in Houston.
Rodeo kickoff.
Yeah.
In Houston.
I can't even
say that.
Yeah.
You had a good time?
I've been dragging a little bit today.
A little slow.
I got a drip today. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You should have just been taking my vital C.
Yeah. Well, you just gave me some, so we'll see.
Being back to normal. Let's just jump in. So I guess my point is it's Friday. We want to get out of here. We want to go party. We want to deliver great content, and then we want to go party. And so let's jump into this. How to conduct a content audit step by step. It's a fact that even the best content writers and search engine optimizers occasionally strike out with a new piece of content. Just occasionally. For whatever reason, and despite your best efforts, not everything you publish is going to be a hit. Don't waste those non-hits. Use those less than successful pieces of content to figure out where you went wrong, take action to correct it, and use that new knowledge to create stronger new content. What is a content audit, and why is it important that we'll give you step-by-step instructions for performing them on your own is what we're going to do in this podcast. Or have you prepared? I know you read it, like you
yeah, I did read it. Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. What is a content audit? So Ashley says that a content audit is a process of systematically inventorying and evaluating your website's current published content. The content you could be auditing runs the gamut. It could be web pages, landing pages, blog posts, product descriptions, videos, slide decks, white papers. She didn't include, I don't see infographics. Infographics, we'll add that to the list there.
Good job curating.
All right. So first, why do you need to audit your content? Again, nothing is immune to the passage of time, including your content. Things that were once considered irrefutable facts become incorrect all the time. The internet age has only accelerated that process. Regular content audits address the following questions. These are the questions that you want to address.
I'll read them.
Okay. Why don't you do one? I'll do the next one.
Okay. What is your existing content?
Is that content valuable?
How do people find it?
How is it performing?
Is it accurate?
Is it still accurate? So a content audit, step one, set your goals. Like everything, the age-old adage of ready, aim, fire. And then kind of the newer version of it is ready, fire, aim.
I read that book.
Right? Because if you're just aiming, the problem with ready, aim, fire is a lot of people just are like ready, aim.
And they never fire.
Aim.
Yeah.
Aim.
Yeah.
Aim.
Yeah.
So better to ready, fire, aim. And before you do anything, so the first thing you should do is figure out how you're going to measure the content. So it's not test and measure, it's measure and test. know what you're going to measure, and then test it. And especially in this case, because we're auditing existing content, you want to measure it and you want to set your goals. It's important to start with clearly defined objectives about what you want to accomplish. You should have at least one goal, and then determine the metrics with which success will be measured. Here are things that you could include: improving SEO results for specific pages or your entire website,
increasing engagement or conversions,
removing outdated or redundant content,
improving the standard of existing pieces of content,
deciding on a new organizational structure for your website. So step 2. So step 1, like figure out that goal and how you're going to measure it. Step 2, collect and categorize content. By the way, we're going to split this particular podcast in 2. This is going to be fairly short compared to some. So we'll stop about halfway through and then go on. So step 2 is collect and categorize content. First, determine which types of content you're going to be reviewing and collect their URLs. Now, you can do this manually with Excel and Google Sheets and put that spreadsheet together, or you could use an online tool like HubSpot or SEMrush or Screaming Frog.
That's what I would do.
I love Screaming Frog.
Yeah, that does it pretty quick.
And actually offers a pro tip. If your site is larger than a few pages, you will likely want to use a content audit tool. I was auditing a website just yesterday, and I was trying to find a tool because I wanted to turn it into a flowchart of an organizational site, a sitemap in the form of a flowchart. I couldn't really, I found one tool, it didn't really do it. And part of the problem is that it didn't recognize that everything under this menu should have been a different level. So everything was super flat and there was no kind of menu structure built into it. So I just had to do it by hand.
When you're building websites as well, building the content flow out, building on the slug outlay, all this stuff's really important to organize information. And if you have a small website or you have one company that you're doing it for, you're trying to organize content into different buckets and to get a sense of okay, we offer these 5 services, say, how many blogs do we have written about each type of content, right? It is the first layer, and then you can go deeper on that and have those decision trees on information. You can use things like Answer the Public.
Yep.
There's a little tool, SEO Minion, that can help you sort content as well to figure out what topics to go after. And I don't know how many people are doing this. I think people are not having a content calendar and they're just creating stuff. Now you can do this for sales assets, you can do it for videos. You need to figure out what are your goals, right? And I know you talked about that earlier, but I think it's so important of why are we doing a content audit? What do we need to do? Well, we're going to be doing XYZ, right? Okay, we're going to build out a content calendar for social media. We're going to build a content calendar out for GNB posts or GBDP posts. We're going to build a content calendar for new services or case studies or whatever it is, but you need to understand what the goal is, have that end in mind, and then figure out, well, where are you at? It's kind of like setting a baseline if you're going to be running a marketing campaign. Well, we got to get a baseline, and then we can figure out, okay, this is where we start from. Okay, and we make changes. Are we going up? Are we going down?
Yeah.
Right. And so, doing a content audit or even doing a sitemap audit. Sorry, I can't speak today. Sitemap audit for, a project that you have or a website that you have, super important.
Yeah.
I just encourage you to dig into this because it's so valuable. And if you don't know where you sit, you don't know where you're going, and you don't know what you need to do.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. In reality, you should stop and do some planning because you're going to spend time on this. And if you plan appropriately, that time is going to be spent really intelligently. Yeah. If you don't, then the time might just be spent, and that's not intelligent. All right. So we got a pro tip. You're going to want to use an audit tool. You'll want to track the following for each piece of content in a separate content details audit spreadsheet. You're going to want to track the URL, the author, which team produced it. Is that the content team, the social team, the SEO team?
I think you have different calendars, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like, and this is like potentially lumping all of that. You don't want to lump it together.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're using like an Excel or Google Sheets document, you have different tabs, and one's social media, one's content, one's mini blogs, one's whatever, so.
Then content goal, what was the purpose of that content? Backlinks, traffic conversions, the word count, how many comments that they have, shares, break this down by social.
So one of the biggest things that certainly that we've improved as a company over the years, and it's certainly been something that I really focus on with our team. What is the purpose of this piece of content?
Yeah.
What do we want them to do? What action do we want them to take? What keyword do we want to rank for? What is the purpose of this document? And it might be multifaceted.
Yeah.
Okay. And to understand what that is and why it fits in, and is it relevant? And then how effective is it? Like, you don't get answers to things that you don't measure. And so willy-nilly just creating pieces of content for SEO or something like that, it's just, you're spinning your wheels more than you're helping yourself out. Yep. Right. And if you're really clear with what your goals are and your strategies are, and what that piece of content's purpose is and how effective it is at that, you can improve that. I mean, we were talking earlier, and we should have recorded some of it, but we were talking about funnels, and we were talking about, why don't you use the analogy of writing that hit song? And maybe this is a tangent, but I think it's certainly helpful, because
I think we should save it for after the green room, because that keeps coming up. So that's not something that we'll forget. We'll hit it again at some point. All right. So how you structure that information that we just outlined is determined by your goals. You may also want to track some things like, what product or service does that content support? The keywords that you're targeting with that content, and the word count, which I thought was in there. It is in there. So that's a repeat. All right. So step number 3 is track metrics and analyze data. You're looking for tangible KPIs that allow you to assess the health and performance of your site. And specifically, you're doing this content audit. You're going to be making changes to content. You want to be able to assess whether those changes were valuable or not valuable. So you got to be able to have those tangible KPIs. So 1, perform a past audit. Before we get into the data, you must backtrack and audit your past produced content. Hopefully you've already got this in the spreadsheet. Maybe you don't. If you don't, you want to know that the content you've published how well it performs, and to help you get a gauge of what kind of content you need to create in the future and what kind not to create. If you know how well it's done, whatever the criterion, and everything that was, an infographic failed, probably not, or a video succeeded, then you know that you need to create more of that.
So there are some really great like social media tools out there that let you measure how well this post is doing against your body of post or your last post, and also what pieces of data, what are people responding to? What is your audience responding to help you improve your content? And you can do the same thing with blogs. Like, one is like, is it getting unindexed from Google? Because we have a lot of new clients that come to us and they're like, they got,
why is my rankings tanking?
Like, it's, the content is just non-original. And that is, one of the concerns with AI is, you got to be more original here, because if the content's not useful, Google's going to take it out of the indexing. Right. And so if it's not in the index, it doesn't help you at all. Right. And so, with blogs, you can, one, is it indexed? 2, like, how much are people spending on it? Well, is it ranking? How many people are going to it? What are they doing on that site? Smaller sites, you don't have a lot of data to work with. Like, you actually have more data on the social media side until you really get your blogs ranking. And really, there's a huge shift even, because primarily when I think content, I think blogs. I mean, like, we're not looking right now at how is this image performing like we are on videos. Like, you got video data, but how is like this image performing? I don't really know how people are assessing that. But I think text content, and I think that, you want to also probably think about utilizing text content on other platforms where they're going to get a lot more traffic, or running even ads to that content to test it out better. But your blogs should not just be for SEO. They should be, people should want to read them, and they should rank, and they should be answering questions in the search engines, and it should be a traffic driver to your site. And if you're not doing that, run some traffic to it, or share, always going up, sharing stuff on social media, and linking it back to your website's not necessarily a good thing, because they don't want them to leave the site. Right.
Right.
Sometimes a window will open and they can read it from that. But I think that you need to get people in front of your content to see how it does. Because if you don't know if you're producing good or bad content, you got to lay that baseline down. So,
yeah. So assess that, what kind to create, what kind not to create. You want to decide how far back you want to go for this content audit. Ashley recommends going back at least 1 year and gathering data for how your content performed the year before. Many website analytics tools like Google Analytics or SEMrush's content audit tool can quickly inventory and your content based on your sitemap data. These can provide you with a list of content URLs to audit. So he gives the example of one of the reports. It's got the URL, the workflow status, so he can define like, hey, it's in progress or it's actually published. How many shares does it have? How many Facebook shares? How many Twitter tweets or retweets? How many sessions on that content, on that page, average session duration, bounce rate. So to combine all these together can help you identify those outliers that deserve a second look, because maybe there's some type of content or some subjects in the content that are doing really well on TikTok or not doing so well on Instagram. My wife actually has a viral video on TikTok, actually legitimately viral.
Yeah,
it's cool as hell. I told one of my business partners about it, and he was like, "What is she getting naked?" Because you can't get from here to there. But no, it's about menopause, right? My wife went through early onset menopause, and that content is doing really well. So you might look at the breadth of work that she's doing, that she's publishing, and you go like, okay, well, menopause, ironically, is actually doing really well on TikTok. So if you thought TikTok was only young kids, like that is not true anymore.
I have heard that that's shifting a lot. I mean, it's really just like, what is the average attention span of Americans? And it's
getting shorter every day.
It's continuing to get shorter. And well, guess
the
what?
Goldfish is way ahead of us, man.
Yeah. And so I'm hearing really positive things about TikTok as well. And the demographics are changing. So yeah. Well, Facebook's coming back too.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. So you got this content, you looked at it over the past year, you did an audit of it. Make sure you prepare yourself for ongoing audience. So now you can repeat this audit activity for new content weekly, is Ashley's suggestion. Upload the most recent numbers and statistics every week. Over time, again, take note of any drastic changes. And again, that drastic change could be on TikTok or on Instagram or on Facebook, or it could just be the bounce rate, or it could be whatever it is. You're looking for those outliers because they can tell you, if you dig into them and you spend a little bit of planning with them, you can understand why it's working that way and make adjustments.
Yeah, I think like however you're building out your content calendar, if it's weekly or if it's over a longer period of time, you build it into that model and you build on that information to continue to have a living, breathing document that you can utilize versus something that you do once and then you put on a shelf and it collects dust, sort of thing.
Yeah. And she makes the note, right, in terms of assessing it weekly. Sometimes evergreen content specifically can take months before it really takes off. So just know that some of these will have lag times, just depending on the type of content.
That is so true.
Right.
That is so true. Like topics are so important. And then different topics, different times. And, there's news, there's Google News strategies, there's different things that if you're trying to grab attention, right, there's this constant level of attention. And then there's like, hey, look at this shiny object kind of attention. And I think that's a really good note to know that evergreen content sometimes takes longer because you're having to wait for people to find it and
appreciate it and share it. And
and also like you need to probably look at the topics too on how many people, like if you're very narrow down on the funnel, those are going to be the right people, but there's not going to be probably as many of them. And so it's going to take a little bit longer to work through the process.
Yeah. All right. So here are some metrics to track. Comments. A properly moderated comment section can add valuable user-generated content to your blog posts and articles. That makes sense. If one of your content goals is to build a community on your website, you will want to know what content types and topics generate conversions. Use the UGC link attribute to ensure you're compliant with Google's requirements for link markup. So what that's saying is there are sections on your website that if it's user-generated content should be defined to Google in schema as user-generated content. And the links that come out of that need to be defined as user-generated content. You need to be telling Google the proper story. Yeah. If you don't allow comments on your blog, check for comments on your social media posts about your content. Some marketers brush off social shares as vanity metrics. I can certainly say that to some degree, I think that way. And I also like to dig into the actual comments because there's a lot of value in them, right? So if you're just going for comments' sakes, okay, not a big fan. But if you're going to get comments so that you can mine those comments for real nuggets that can help guide what you're going to do next, like that's absolutely worth doing.
Well, also the amount of likes that the post gets and the amount of shares really that the post gets and the amount of engagement just in general, however you're measuring it. There's actually a different point system for a lot of these algorithms, right? Like short comments versus long comments it tells you if the content's like resonate with people. Like it's not a vanity metric. Like that's important to know.
It's an impact.
Yeah. Like if nobody's liking your stuff or you got like just a handful of people liking it, make better content, right? Because the reality is like with your wife's post, it will go viral. Like if you're following the guidelines of what the platform's trying to do and you do things in a certain way and you're not putting links up in the post and you're following these right things and you hit on a right topic and you have enough authority, right? Or sometimes you don't even have to because they're showing it based on how much engagement it is. Like TikTok, you don't have to have all these followers because it's going to show based on interest. Yeah. So if you have even a small group of people that are interested in talking about something, they're going to share it to them, and then it's going to share it to their friends. It's going to share it to them, and that's how it goes viral because that's how real information travels. Yeah. So
I can tell you, and just thinking about it right now, my search process has changed, and what drove me is at the conference that I was at recently, somebody was talking about how if they're looking for a product, they'll actually go to TikTok and look for reviews of the product, which I would never do. Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
But at the same point, I know that I'm doing a lot more of my kind of background research on YouTube now.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I'm looking for videos to do it because I don't feel like reading an article, or I'm doing it during lunch so I can listen to a quote unquote article or expert speak about it instead of having to read it
from YouTube.
Yeah.
I'm getting actually my news from YouTube, and it makes a lot of sense too to get little short snippets because maybe I just need a couple pieces of information. I want to hear what a bunch of people have to say, a couple sentences about one or two things. And so I think that there's still a lot of opportunity to create that content because there's a lot of times where I'm really interested in a topic and I go through a couple videos and then I'm like, I want more. I need more people producing content about that specific thing. And so, the search is changing for sure. So it's important.
All right. So next, again, metrics to track. Organic traffic, obviously SEO podcast. Ideally, your content will receive a lot of organic traffic. If you aren't getting organic traffic, that could be a potential red flag. Perhaps something is wrong with, I don't know, your content strategy, how you're distributing the content, the queen that we use, which is content is king.
Distribution is queen.
And who wears the pants? The queen wears the pants in the family. The content type and the actual content itself. So that really wraps up part 1 for how to conduct a content and audit step-by-step. Patif to Ashley. It's a great article. We'll cover the rest of it. Just a teaser, right? So we're talking about metrics you should be looking at. The next one is bounce rate. You want to hear us talk about bounce rate and backlinks? Come join us on the next podcast.
Well, Chris, because we have more people watching our stuff, we should go back to having props and now I'm like bounce rate. I'm like bouncy balls and backlinks and there's bobbleheads.
That's the bobblehead.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're watching this, you know what that sound is because you can see it.
Well,
if you're listening, you also know what it is because I just said it.
Well, the next big focus, and I think a past podcast we had the wrong input, so we apologize about that. But we are focused on making higher quality content and adding more bells and whistles to the production side of things as we're getting more sponsors. So we have another sponsor that I'll be announcing
coming soon.
I'll be announcing it next, I think probably next podcast. And so really this podcast was to educate our team as well as everyone else out there. We thought there was value in it, and that's why it was started. And now we're looking at really turning it into a business. There are ways on our website and Best SEO Podcast to support us, value for value. We would love for you to connect with us, like our stuff, share, comment. Best SEO Podcast, you can find it anywhere, and there'll be ways to donate, and we're going to really step it up. And I have some plans to build out a podcast network. So
and you can be part of that journey with us.
You can be part of that journey.
And you may have already been part of the journey all the way up till now. And if that's true, we want to say thank you very much.
Yeah.
You guys have made us the most popular SEO podcast, one of the top internet marketing podcasts on iTunes in the iTunes in the known universe. And we want to thank you for that. Patif to you.
Yeah.
If you would like to grow your business with the largest, simplest marketing tool on the planet,
the internet,
go to EWR Digital for increased revenue in your business. Just once you're at EWRdigital.com, click the free consultation.
Yes.
It's right there in the upper right-hand corner. Schedule a time. You can schedule a time right there, real time, with one of our internet marketing experts.
Well,
you will get value.
It doesn't go real time right into the consultation. You schedule it, and then and then it sets the appointment.
Yeah.
So,
This is a situation where the form on the website is standing by the internet marketing consultants you can schedule time with.
Yes.
Go schedule that time. You will get value out of that call if you don't reach out to me or Matt, and we'll make sure that some value is delivered to you. Unless, of course, you're doing everything 100% correctly, in which case, why would you fill out that form? All right. Until the next podcast, my name is Chris Burres.
My name is Matt Bertram.
Bye-bye for now.